This is what happens when people like you try to pretend to be something you're not. You don't belong here.
Sometimes we think we know a person just by looking at them. The color of their skin, the clothes they wear, the way they walk. And that's when we make life's worst mistakes. Because not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything that seems simple is ordinary. This is the story of Sarah, a 21-year-old who grew up knowing the world could be cruel. But that day in a fancy Boston restaurant, she didn't expect the cruelty to come in such a violent way, and much less that the response would come in such a powerful way. Brace yourself, because what happened at that lunch changed more than a ripped dress. It changed entire lives. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment on where you're watching from. And let's get to the story. It was a Saturday morning in Boston, one of those autumn ones where the sun streams through the windows and makes the city appear golden. The leaves on the trees were already that shade of orange and red that only a New England autumn can create. And the air had that crispness that calls for a light coat. Sarah stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the navy blue dress she'd chosen for lunch with her parents. She was 21 years old, with dark skin that shone like polished ebony, curly hair pulled back in an elegant bun that had taken almost an hour to get just right, and a smile that lit up any room. Her eyes were large and expressive, the kind that revealed every emotion she felt. Michael and Catherine Bennett were his entire world. Michael, at 52, with perfectly coiffed gray hair, piercing blue eyes, and Italian suits that cost more than a luxury car, was one of the most influential men in Boston. Owner of Bennett Construction Group, one of the largest construction companies in New England, he had built an empire with his own hands. He started as a carpenter at 18, working summer jobs to pay for college, and by 30 he had already opened his own company. Now at 52, he was responsible for some of the city's most iconic buildings. Catherine, at 48, was as elegant as a porcelain doll, with her always impeccable blonde hair cut in a sophisticated long bob, fair skin that she religiously protected from the sun, and that kind way she treated everyone, from the building's doorman to the executives at her husband's company. She had been a corporate lawyer but left her career when she got married, not because he asked her to, but because she wanted to dedicate herself to social causes. Catherine volunteered at 3 organizations and dedicated at least 20 hours a week to helping underprivileged children. But there was one thing that money, social standing, and the best doctors in the country hadn't been able to give them: a child. After years of trying, expensive fertility treatments, hopes that were born and then died with each frustrated cycle, doctors who said maybe next month, they decided to adopt. Catherine had cried for days when they finally accepted that they would never have a child biologically. Michael held her hand and told her that there were so many children in the world needing love, and that they would give that love to someone who needed it. And when they saw Sarah for the first time, just 6 months old in that orphanage in Roxbury, a predominantly black neighborhood in Boston, they knew it was her. The social worker had shown them other children, light-skinned babies who would fit in better with the family. But when Catherine picked Sarah up and the girl grabbed her finger with that tiny hand, beginning to smile, it was as if the universe had said this was their daughter. No matter her skin color, no matter what others would say, no matter the looks they would receive, this girl was theirs, and they would love her as if she had come from Catherine's own womb. And they loved. You know, that kind of love that spares no effort, that sees no color, that sees no difference, that only sees the child. It was like that. Sarah grew up in the Bennett Mansion on Beacon Hill, in one of those historic red brick houses with tall windows and a perfectly manicured front yard. She attended the best private schools in Boston, took piano lessons from a teacher who had studied in Vienna, ballet lessons from a former Boston ballet dancer, and French lessons from a Paris native. Her birthdays were elaborate affairs with themed decorations and fancy cakes. She had everything a child could dream of, but he also grew up hearing whispers, sidelong glances, mean comments that people thought she didn't hear, or didn't care if she did. She's adopted, right? Poor thing, she'll never be a real Bennett. Her parents must have done it to look good. You know, rich people love to give to charity to make themselves feel better. A black girl in that all-white family. How strange. It must be so hard for her. I bet her parents will have a real child. Then she'll know what it's like to be left out. Sarah was only 7 years old when she first heard a schoolmate say she wasn't really a Bennett. She'd come home crying, thrown her backpack on the floor, and run to her room. Catherine found her curled up in bed, sobbing. "What happened, my love?" Emma said, "I'm not real. That you and Daddy aren't my real parents because I didn't come out of your belly? Catherine sat on the bed, pulled Sarah into her lap, and held her daughter's little face in her hands. Look at me, Sarah, look into my eyes. And when Sarah looked, Catherine continued with loving firmness. You are my daughter. In the truest way possible, I didn't need to carry you in my belly to carry you in my heart. Do you understand that? You were in my heart before I even met you. And there is nothing, no word, no person in this world that can change that. Sarah grew up hearing these words. Whenever anyone tried to belittle her, whenever the world was cruel, Catherine and Michael were there. Firm, present, loving unconditionally. At school, things weren't always easy. Sarah was one of the few black children in an elite school where most families were white, wealthy, and came from generations of old money. Some children were kind, but others used Sarah's difference as a weapon. When she was 12, a group of girls started calling her the lucky orphan. They said she only had good things because she was lucky enough to be adopted by rich people, as if she didn't deserve it, as if it were an accident. Sarah cried a lot that year. There were nights when she asked Catherine why people hated her. They don't hate you, honey, Catherine replied, running her hand through her daughter's hair. They're afraid of what's different. And when people are afraid, they attack. But that says a lot more about them than it does about you. Michael had a more direct approach. He sat down with Sarah one day and said, Daughter, the world will try to knock you down many times. For being a woman, for being black, for being adopted. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to get up, you're going to brush your knee off, and you're going to keep walking. And one day, you'll be so far above these people that they'll need a telescope to see you. And Sarah tried. God, how she tried. She dedicated herself to her studies, earning top grades in her class. She learned to play the piano so well that she gave a recital at 15 that made half the audience cry. She became captain of the school debate team, won essay awards, and was accepted into Harvard to study architecture, her dream university. But all the success in the world couldn't erase the pain of occasionally hearing someone tell her she didn't belong, of feeling stares when she walked into a fancy store with her mother, of being followed by security guards at the mall, even when wearing designer clothes, of hearing at 18 a boyfriend's father say it wasn't personal, but that he thought it would be better for his son to date someone more compatible with the family. Sarah learned early on that the world could be cruel, but she also learned, looking into her mother and father's eyes, that true love was stronger than any prejudice. That family wasn't about blood, but about choice. It was about presence. It was about tight hugs in times of pain. It was about hands holding yours when you thought you were going to fall. That morning, as she adjusted her dress in the mirror, Sarah smiled at her reflection. That blue dress was special. Catherine had given it to her for her birthday 3 months ago. They had gone together to a boutique on Newbury Street, and when Sarah tried it on, Catherine had placed her hand on her chest and told her it was perfect, that she looked beautiful. It was a simple yet elegant dress, navy blue knee-length with 3/4 sleeves and a subtle neckline, the kind of dress that didn't scream but made you look twice. Perfect for the lunch they had planned at Le Bernardin, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. Sarah, honey, are you ready? Catherine's voice echoed from downstairs. I'm coming, Mom. Sarah took one last look in the mirror, grabbed the small leather bag that matched her shoes, and went downstairs. The house was quiet, with only the soft sound of jazz playing on the sound system. Michael enjoyed classical and jazz music, and the house always had an elegant soundtrack. Michael was already waiting in the living room, adjusting the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist, a gift from his late father, which he wore on special occasions. He wore a charcoal gray suit, white shirt, and dark blue tie. When Sarah came down the stairs, he looked up and smiled the way only a father can. Pure pride was evident on his face. You look beautiful, daughter. Thank you, Dad. Sarah kissed his cheek, inhaling the expensive perfume he always wore. You look very elegant, too. Catherine emerged from the kitchen where she'd gone to check something with the cook. She was radiant in a light beige dress with a pearl necklace and an Hermes bag on her arm. Shall we go? I don't want to miss the reservation. You know how Jean-Pierre gets when we're late. The car, a black Mercedes-Benz S-Class with a cream leather interior, was waiting. Marcus, the family's driver for over 15 years, was already behind the wheel. He was a black man in his 50s, always elegant in his impeccable uniform, and he had a special bond with Sarah. When she was a child and would come home from school crying because of some cruel comment, Marcus always had a word of encouragement. Good afternoon, Bennett family. Marcus said, opening the back door. "Good afternoon, Marcus," you three replied. Inside the car, the atmosphere was light and happy. They talked about the week, about the construction company's new project, a luxury residential complex in the seaport area, about Sarah's plans to pursue a master's degree in sustainable architecture. "I've always wanted you to follow in my footsteps," Michael said, looking out the window. "But I want you to follow your own path. With your vision, with your ideas. You'll be better than me, I'm sure of it." Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. That man had been everything to her. Father, mentor, friend, teacher, protector. When the kids at school laughed at her, it was Michael who wiped away her tears and said, "Let them laugh. One day you'll be so far above them they won't even reach your shadow." When she doubted her ability to get into Harvard, it was Michael who sat her down, reviewed her portfolio project by project, and told her, "You'll not just get in, you'll excel." And he was right. Sarah had graduated with honors, interned at the most prestigious firm, and now had an acceptance letter for her master's degree. They arrived at Le Bernardin at 12:30 sharp. The restaurant was in a historic building in the heart of Back Bay, with a discreet but elegant facade. There was no flashy sign, just a small bronze plaque next to the door. The kind of place that didn't need to advertise itself. If you needed to know, you knew. Marcus pulled up in front. "Bennett family, enjoy your lunch. I'll be here or in the parking lot around the corner. Just call me when you're done." "Thanks, Marcus," Michael said, giving the driver a friendly pat on the shoulder. They entered the restaurant and were immediately greeted by soft air conditioning and the delicious smell of French food. The restaurant was everything you imagine when you think of understated luxury. Jewel-like crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, starched white tablecloths so perfect they looked like blank canvases, fresh flowers on every table, white-gloved waiters moving like dancers around the room, and a respectful silence broken only by the discreet clink of silverware against fine china. The maitre d', Jean-Pierre, a slight man in his 60s with a thin mustache and a thick French accent, greeted them with a professional smile that became genuine when he saw the Bennetts. "Monsieur Bennett, Madame Bennett, Mademoiselle Sarah, quel plaisir. What a pleasure to have you with us again. Your table is ready, as always." They were shown to a table by the window, overlooking the restaurant's small indoor garden, a hidden oasis in the middle of the city, with water fountains, tropical plants, and natural light streaming in through the glass ceiling. It was Michael's favorite table. Sarah sat in the chair the waiter pulled out for her, taking a deep breath. She loved this place. The food was impeccable. The atmosphere was sophisticated without being pretentious, and she always felt special when she came there with her parents. It was one of their rituals. Saturday lunch at Le Bernardin once a month whenever possible. "I'll have the wild Alaskan salmon," Catherine said, looking at the menu with a smile. "With that caper sauce, that's divine." "I'll have the Chilean cod," Michael said, closing the menu. He always ordered the same thing. "What about you, honey?" "I think I'll have the sea bass," Sarah said. "With that Sicilian lemon risotto." My mouth is already watering just thinking about it. The waiter took their orders and brought a bottle of French Chardonnay. They toasted Sarah with sparkling water, because she'd never been much of a drinker. "To the future," Michael said, raising his glass, "and to my brilliant daughter." "To the future," Sarah and Catherine repeated. They chatted while waiting for their food. Michael told her about a difficult meeting he'd had earlier that week with New York investors. Catherine talked about the fundraiser she was organizing to raise money for a school in Roxbury. Sarah shared her ideas for her master's degree project, a sustainable housing complex that would use solar energy. "I want to do something that really helps people," Sarah said, her eyes shining. "Not just pretty buildings. I want to make architecture that changes lives." The food arrived and everything was so beautiful it felt like a sin to eat. They ate slowly, savoring every bite. Everything was perfect. The food, the company, the ambiance. It was one of those moments you want to remember forever, until it wasn't perfect anymore. Sarah got up to go to the bathroom. She walked elegantly between the tables. The women's restroom was luxurious. Italian marble, gold faucets, and lavender-scented soap. Sarah washed her hands, touched up her lipstick, fixed a strand of hair, and left. It was on the way back that everything fell apart. She was passing a table where an older woman was sitting. He must have been in his early 60s, maybe 70s. He'd clearly had several plastic surgeries that stretched his face. His hair was dyed a very yellow-looking blonde, pulled back in an elaborate updo. She wore over-the-top jewelry, a diamond necklace that seemed to weigh a pound, huge earrings and rings on almost every finger. Her dress was an expensive designer, but it was so detailed it was too flashy. Beside her stood a man, probably her husband, about 10 years older with completely white hair, reading glasses hanging on a gold chain, and a weary expression. He ate in silence, looking as if he wanted to be anywhere else. Sarah wasn't even going to pay attention, but the woman spoke loudly enough for half the restaurant to hear. "Look at this. How absurd to let people like that into a place like this. This is supposed to be a classy restaurant, not some whatever." Sarah froze. She felt every muscle in her body tense. She turned slowly and looked at the woman. "Excuse me?" The woman didn't even blink. She looked Sarah up and down with a disgusted expression. "You heard me perfectly. Places like this were for people of class, of birth, of family, not for just anyone who shows up thinking they can sit here." The entire restaurant fell silent. The waiters stopped. People stared. Sarah felt her blood rise, her heart pounding, but she took a deep breath. She had learned how to deal with people like that. Ignoring them was the best response. "Have a good lunch," Sarah said, her voice firm but polite, and turned to return to her table. That's when she felt it. A violent tug at the back of her dress. A loud rip. The sound of fabric being ripped echoing through the restaurant. And suddenly, Sarah felt cold air on her back. Felt the dress Catherine had given her so lovingly hanging open, ripped from the nape of her neck to the waist, exposing her skin, her vulnerability. Sarah turned around in such shock that for a moment she couldn't process it. The woman was standing, still clutching a piece of blue fabric in her hand, her eyes filled with hatred. "That's it!" the woman screamed, her voice trembling with rage. "This is what happens when people like you try to pretend to be something you're not. You don't belong here."
You never will.
Sarah couldn't speak. Tears began to burn, blurring everything. She clutched her torn dress to her body, trying to cover her back, and felt a humiliation so profound it was almost physical. That's when she heard his voice. You ripped my daughter's dress?" Michael's voice echoed through the restaurant. Something in it Sarah had never heard before. It was controlled, but there was fury underneath. Michael stood beside the table, napkin still in hand, and Catherine stood behind him, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. Michael walked over to Sarah, took off his jacket without a word, and draped it over her shoulders, covering the tear, restoring her dignity. Then he turned to the woman, and when Michael looked at her, the woman took a step back. "Do you have any idea who's in front of you?" Michael's voice was low, almost a whisper, but somehow more terrifying. The woman hesitated. Her husband tried to pull her back. I just what, the woman began, but her voice was different, less confident. "You were just what?" Michael stepped forward. "Humiliating an innocent young woman? Ripping her clothes off? Exposing her in front of an entire restaurant? Why, tell me. I really want to understand what kind of person does this." The entire restaurant watched. No one moved. Jean-Pierre had run over, but Michael held up his hand, signaling for him to wait. "Because she shouldn't be here," the woman said, her voice weak. "This kind of place isn't for who?" Michael took another step. "Finish the sentence. This kind of place isn't for who?"
For black people?
"Is that it? Speak up. Have the courage to say what you really think." The woman blushed. "I'm not racist. I just think there are standards." "Standards?" Michael laughed humorlessly. "What kind of standards?" "The standard that says someone's skin color determines where they can eat, where they can sit. I'll tell you something about this young woman you just assaulted. This young woman is my daughter, Sarah Bennett. She graduated from Harvard University with highest honors in architecture. She speaks 3 languages. She volunteers for charities. She dedicates hours teaching underprivileged children. She is smarter, kinder, more compassionate, and more valuable than you will ever be." The woman was trembling. "I didn't know." "I didn't know what?" Michael interrupted. "That she was my daughter? That she came from a wealthy family? What if she wasn't? What if she was a waitress here? Or a cleaning lady? Would that give you the right to treat her like that?" Silence. Because that's what people like you do. You judge by what you see on the outside. And when you discover you're wrong, that the person has power, money, then you tremble. But the problem isn't that you were wrong about who they are. The problem is that you think someone deserves to be treated this way. That's when Sarah stepped forward. She had wiped away her tears, and when she spoke, her voice was firm. "You know what the saddest part is? It's not the ripped dress. Dresses can be repaired. It's not the humiliation. The saddest part is that you looked at me and decided in seconds that I was worthless. You don't know me. You know nothing about me, but you decided to hate me anyway. The woman lowered her gaze. I grew up hearing things like that, Sarah continued. I grew up being judged for my skin, for being adopted. And you know what I learned? That people like you have far more problems than I ever will. Because I know who I am. I know I'm loved. I know my worth. You need to destroy others to feel superior, and that's sad. Catherine walked over and hugged Sarah. Michael turned to the maitre d'. I want this woman removed from here immediately. And I want you to know that as long as places like this allow people to be assaulted, you will lose not only my account, but the accounts of all my partners. Jean-Pierre nodded. Mr. Bennett, I'm so sorry. This has never happened. I know it never has, Michael said. But it happened today, and there must be consequences. 2 security guards appeared and escorted the woman and her husband out. She tried to protest, but no one was listening. Michael turned to Sarah. Are you okay, daughter? Sarah nodded, tears returning, but now of gratitude. Yes, Dad, thank you. He hugged her. Catherine joined in. And there, in the middle of that restaurant, they embraced. A family, not by blood, but by choice. Jean-Pierre approached with the manager. Mr. Bennett, we'd like to offer you lunch courtesy of the house. And you're banned permanently. Michael looked at Sarah. What do you think? Do you want to stay? Sarah took a deep breath. She could leave or she could stay and show that she wouldn't let hate take away her peace. Let's stay. I still want that sea base. And they stayed. Lunch continued. The food arrived impeccably, and little by little the restaurant returned to its rhythm. But something had changed. People looked at them with respect. They had seen dignity, love, true family. As they ate, Catherine held Sarah's hand. You were amazing, darling, so strong. I learned from you, Sarah said. You always taught me that we can't let hate define us. Michael raised his glass. To Sarah, the strongest woman I know. They toasted. 3 weeks later, Sarah was in her father's office reviewing plans for a school in Roxbury, the neighborhood where she was born. The secretary knocked on the door. Sarah, someone's here. Margaret Whitmore. Sarah froze. The woman from the restaurant. Show her in. Margaret entered slowly, looking smaller, more human. Sarah, she began, her voice trembling. I know you have no reason to listen to me, but you had to come. What I did was unforgivable. There's no excuse. I judged you without knowing you. And I've spent these weeks thinking about what you said, that I have problems, and you were right. The tears fell. I grew up in a family where I was taught that some people were less than. I never questioned it. Until that day. Until I saw your father defend you. Until I heard you speak with dignity. Sarah felt understanding. Why are you here? Because I need to change. And I wanted to apologize. I really did. Not because your father is rich, but because you deserved respect. Sarah remained silent. I accept your request, but forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. What you did to me, you did to other people, who might not have had anyone to defend them. Margaret nodded. Then I forgive you. But not for you, for me. Because I don't want to carry that burden. But you need to do more. You need to act differently. I will, Margaret promised. I swear, she turned. Margaret, Sarah called. Thank you for coming. It took courage. Margaret smiled, small but genuine, and left. Sarah looked out the window at Boston. Her home, a place of beauty and wounds, but she had hope. If Margaret could change, maybe there was hope. That night at dinner, Sarah told her about the visit. Did you accept? Catherine asked, surprised. I did. Because I deserve to be free, Michael smiled. You're wiser than I am. I learned from the best. Sarah posted a photo of herself in a new dress on social media. You can tear my clothes, but you will never tear my dignity. You can judge me, but you will never diminish my heart. I am Sarah Bennett. I'm a daughter, an architect, a dreamer. And I am human, just like you. We are all human. We all deserve respect. We all deserve love. The post went viral. Thousands shared it. Sarah realized her story had touched hearts. Because everyone has felt judged. And everyone needs to remember that what matters isn't skin color or bank account. What matters is how you treat people. How you choose to love. How you choose to be a light. 2 years later, Sarah stood on the stage at Harvard receiving her master's degree. In the audience, Michael and Catherine were crying. Sarah looked at them and reflected on how lucky she was to have been chosen. because family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about being present. It's about defending, loving, and never giving up. And the Bennetts never gave up on Sarah, not for a second. And Sarah never gave up on who she was. Because in the end, that's what defines us. Not what others say, but who we choose to be despite everything. You know, this story makes me think about how often we judge someone without knowing the story behind it. How often we look and decide in seconds who someone is. Sarah could have let that moment destroy her, but she chose to forgive. She chose to grow. She chose to be bigger than hate. And that's something we can all do. Choose love over anger, choose empathy over judgment. Because in the end, we're all human. We all carry pain, we all want to be seen, accepted, loved. If this story touched you in any way, like it below. Comment what you thought and subscribe to the channel to continue hearing stories that make us reflect on what truly matters in life.